What's going on, everyone? Decided to do a little AMA today. All things political, all things whatever. So much to talk about, so many things that have happened over the weekend that I wanted to basically just have a conversation with you guys and kind of have a going back and forth, a dialogue. That's what it's called, a dialogue. So anything you guys want to talk about, anything you want to chat about, the first thing that I want to talk about is some good people that I know and I love and I like passing around this idea that it's not important whether or not you vote, that voting doesn't make a difference. I think more than anything else, it's you have to realize that you really only have three types of capital in the world. And number one, that's military, physical force capital, which we don't have as citizens, right? We can't get done what we want to get done through physical force. Then you have economic capital. If you're rich, then you could do whatever the hell you want to, right? But most Americans are not rich. And so that leaves us down to political capital. People have died. Joel said people have died for the right to vote. Of course, it's important for people to vote. And that's the thing. I guess I just don't understand this absurd notion. Do you feel like sometimes that it doesn't make a difference whether or not you vote? I get that. But to just completely abdicate your responsibility to vote is really, really absurd, especially when we have opportunity here, right? So we have an opportunity like never before. When's the last time you saw somebody running for office really presenting options like Bernie Sanders is presenting? So, to carry over this idea from previous elections that voting for voting for, let's say, Bill Clinton is the same as voting for Bob Dole, to bring that old conversation here is kind of ridiculous because we're not dealing with the same type of candidate. When's the last time you heard anybody talk about redistribution? When's the last time you heard anybody talking about income inequality? When's the last time you heard anyone talking about making sure that people have a living wage? People who work 40 hours a week should be able to live and not live in poverty, that type of thing. You haven't. So, this idea, this old idea that it doesn't matter who you vote for and we just shouldn't participate is kind of is a bit absurd. So that's just one of the many things going on this week that's kind of ticked me off. The other thing that really is kind of pissed me off is this idea of incrementalism. And I tweeted about it yesterday. So listen, I'm just talking right now. When you guys ask questions, I'll address whatever you ask. Until I see some questions come up, then I'll just keep running my mouth. This idea of incrementalism, talking about will this be a regular thing moving forward? Yeah, I think so. I think at least on Saturdays we can do something informal, something just kind of more laid back, so that you can talk to me directly and we can just kind of get ideas out, build this network, this family, this community, Progressive Army. So anyway, this idea of incrementalism, and feel free to interrupt me, even if I'm on a rant. I'm Johnny on the spot. I can definitely adjust, but. This idea that we should be satisfied or believe in Hillary Clinton's incremental approach to changing the system, that to me is so deceptive, right? It sounds like the responsible thing to do, but it's very irresponsible when you consider that the mess that we got in wasn't done so incrementally, right? This economic paradigm, this neoliberal trickle-down economics paradigm, that's a good question. I have to look up. Somebody Google that. There's a quote from MLK on incrementalism, and it's escaping me right now too. But this economic paradigm was not incremental. Right? We didn't get into this mess incrementally. We got into this mess really overnight with one piece of legislation. It took years for it to hit the fan, right? But with the 1981 tax plan from Ronald Reagan, that really set this thing in motion, and we're still living underneath that paradigm today. So, incrementally, we can incrementally go back and forth, but we haven't changed anything about what Ronald Reagan did fundamentally, not the fundamentals of our economic system. And so everyone is passing this as a virtue that we should just incrementally and slowly make changes towards progress. We didn't get into this mess slowly. We got into this mess with a revolution, with a conservative revolution. And then we had Democrats come along who triangulated in the middle of this conservative revolution. And they used that as an excuse to say, well, this is the way we needed to get power. But they didn't change us. They didn't put us back towards a progressive movement. Bill Clinton did not put us back towards progressivism. Barack Obama hasn't put us back towards progressivism. Let's just be fair. It's It's a measurable, objective reality that Barack Obama has governed from the center right as a moderate. His greatest achievement, the Affordable Care Act, that is a moderate right piece of legislation. And so this whole idea of that we should just take our time and get back to progressivism, no, we did not take our time and get into this mess in the first place. So I think that's a very highly disingenuous and a very deceptive way of making Hillary Clinton sound so much more responsible, when in actuality it's just an excuse to do nothing. It's an excuse to keep the status quo. So that's what I've got. I mean, that's the only thing I wanted to talk about. So I want you guys to, throw some questions out there, and let's get a conversation going. Plenty of stuff to talk about in this election. Have you heard about the corruption in the North Carolina offices and Niko house? Yes. I watched some of the videos, and let me say this: I don't have enough as evidence to. Like, all I have is his word. I have no reason not to believe Niko, right? I don't know anything about him. So, we watch videos, and until somebody gives me some reason not to believe him, I have every reason to believe him. But before we, make a move on it officially with the show, before we make a move on it with the show or with the Progressive Army, I want to do a little more research. I want to do my due diligence, right? So, but the overall story is that people were put in charge. How do we get the progressive movement to go mainstream? DKG says, MLK, this is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or taking tranquilizing drug or gradualism. What do you think of Trump and the New York protests happening today? Somebody fill me in on the protest that's happening today. That quote on gradual incrementalism from King is so apropos. They want us to take our time getting out of this mess. But we got into this mess really quickly. We got into this mess by virtue of Ronald Reagan. Heart beatingly said, I watched the videos on Eugene McCarthy and wow, didn't realize that it was set up against progressives. I'm not sure about that video, what you're referring to, but the video they were talking about earlier with Niko, Niko was essentially saying that there were some people sent into Bernie Sanders' camp. They were essentially Hillary Clinton supporters, and they did everything they could to sabotage the success of Bernie Sanders, particularly with regard to endorsements that wanted to come, but the endorsements were never given a chance to actually materialize because of the sabotage. So again, I don't have anything else to confirm that. I just have his videos, but we will look into it. Do you believe that we still have a shot to make Bernie the nominee? Yeah, there is a road. There's definitely a road, and I'm behind Bernie still. There's a road, but it's a hard road. We talked about it earlier this week. That it's going to take a lot of boots on the ground. It's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of work, and I think we just have to keep that in mind. That phone banking is good, phone banking is important, but we also need to those connections that Niko was talking about in his video. Those type of connections are the things that we need to make sure materialize, which is why if everything Niko said in his video is true, then it is all the more damning, right? Because, burning those type of relationships, intentionally sabotaging those types of relationships is exactly the type of thing that would take any campaign under. I only mention that because in addition to doing phone banking, you got to get out there and build relationships. It is so much about relationships at this point. It's always about relationships, right? Part of the reason, let me be honest with you guys. Some of the reason I may end up being Bernie or bust, and I haven't made that decision yet, but I may be, is because of the relationships that were severed by Hillary Clinton supporters because of the ridiculous things that they did. And to me, that's a little petty, but I never told you I wasn't petty. I always told you I'm a little petty. But, those relationships that were severed based with propaganda, or you blocked me because I said something positive about Bernie, those types of things you burn the relationships, and you don't want to vote for anybody like that. Likewise, if you have a relationship with somebody and you tell them about Bernie Sanders, you can get votes. So in addition to doing your phone banking, also go out there and build relationships, healthy relationships, and don't burn any bridges. There were some other questions that kind of went by fast. If you guys have anything else that you want to ask, but yeah, in general, there is a road for Bernie Sanders. It's a very hard road. But more importantly, I want you to know that there is a road for progressivism. I want you to, this is the most amazing thing out of this election. The most amazing thing out of this election that you will see come is a realignment. And I've been talking about this since Donald Trump actually became a serious contender. There's a realignment happening between Hillary Clinton style Democrats and Republicans. And they are joining together. They will be voting, a lot of Republicans will be voting for we cannot be voting against HRC just because the behavior of some of her supporters is abhorrent. Well, you know what? Here's a reason I disagree with that. I disagree with that for the same reason people won't vote for Donald Trump, because of the behaviors of his supporters, right? So granted, Donald Trump is insane, but most people say the reason you shouldn't support Trump is because that will empower his supporters who are absolutely repugnant, right? Likewise, if I see behaviors in people who are supposed to be allies, if I see those behaviors saying, if you're supposed to be an ally and you are carrying yourself using propaganda, using manipulation, using lies, using all the tactics that we said that we don't support, then how can you really be an ally? Why would I want to empower anybody who is going to do to progressivism the very thing we complain about conservatives doing? That's why. So it's not just about somebody doing a petty something on the internet, but really we are empowering not only Hillary, but we're also empowering the people who sold out progressivism just to get Hillary into office. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, I'll ride or die on that one right there. Like, my beef is more with all of the people around Hillary Clinton who are supporting her rewrite of what progressivism is. That is the thing that bothers me the most, is because I know who Hillary Clinton is. I know that she's like Dalton said, like D. Crossway said, I know she's a blue dog Democrat. I know she's a moderate center. And there's nothing wrong with being that. The problem is when you try to tell us, no, we're crazy. We're crazy because we're fighting against income inequality. We're fighting for progressive programs. We're fighting for a single payer. We're fighting for full employment. We're fighting for all the things that progressives have fought for historically. What's wrong is when you try to tell us that we're crazy and that Hillary is a type of progressive we should have been all along. Nah. And empowering people like that really could be very, very detrimental to the progressive movement overall. And again, like I said, I haven't decided if I'm Bernie or bust. I'm actually leaning against being Bernie or bust. But I'm not going to try to change anyone else's mind, because it's your right, it's your vote, it's sacred, it's what no one should be able to manipulate you into voting for someone that you don't support. So that's not my job. I'm not going to be here trying to tell you not to do who to vote for or who to support, because that's you. All right, me too. Live and love. Feels like we're being forced into it through fear-mongering. Somebody said they'll write Bernie in. How can we get rid of this two-party stalemate? I like that question. That's a big question. Close the door, baby. Close the door. Close the door. Daddy's working. I see, Mama. I see. It's very pretty. That's the. No, I don't think voting green I personally, I'm just going to give you my opinion. I don't think voting green is sufficient, because green hasn't. The best opportunity to break up this two-party system would be for Trump to run third party and Sanders to run fourth party. That's it. That's it. Yes, exactly. Green has no infrastructure. They don't have sufficient enough infrastructure to mount a serious fight. The bottom line is, and then a fifth party. God, like if Bloomberg, like this is just wishful thinking. If Bloomberg ran, Donald Trump got outed at the convention and decided to run fourth party. Bernie Sanders decided to run fourth party. So you have Hillary versus Cruz versus Bernie versus Trump versus Bloomberg. Oh my God, that would be the best thing to happen to American democracy, and I cannot stress that enough. Can we create a party like Bernie's campaign? We fund it, no corporate money. I mean, Bernie has done that, right? And so the question is, if Bernie doesn't win, what are you going to do? Like, are you just throwing in the towel? Are you going to go home and say, I'm not participating in politics anymore? Because there are millions of people who contributed millions of dollars. Like, the infrastructure that Bernie Sanders built outside of the Democratic establishment, for the most part, that in itself is a threat to the two-party system. And I think anybody reasonable would admit that the two-party system is problematic. It's very, very problematic, and that the camps are too big to represent their different interests. But the way our system is set up, it leans and tends towards a two-party system, and it's going to be very difficult. The only way I see that happening is if Donald Trump runs third party and Bernie Sanders runs fourth party. Then you will see a brilliant shift in American politics like never before. That would be a pivotal moment in American history that we would be writing about 200 years from now. Granted, if we don't get hit by a meteor or something. Local takeovers are so important moving forward. Bernie's influence applied to local races. This is from the chat room. Agreed. Like I don't see Green Party's meetings. I've lived in a lot of the Southeast, and now I'm in the Northeast, and I've never seen a single local Green Party meeting. And I'm very active, very active. I was active in the Democratic Party until I said I can't be active in you guys anymore. But then I was also active in local activism, and I've never seen a Green Party locally. I see them every 4 years presidential. The local level is where it's at. If you want to know how we take over and how we change the system, it's starting at the local level. It starts at the school board level. It starts at the state house. It starts there. I think Green's heyday was in the 90s. I agree. I honestly don't know. You know, here's the sad thing about the Green Party. I think the Green Party has the ability to change the Democratic Party back to what it was supposed to have been and what it was originally, right? A lot of people who are green came out of, like, over time, came out of the Democratic Party. So, you know, when the Democratic Party became corporatist, then a lot of people said, I just can't be a part of it anymore. So I don't want people to get this idea that the Democratic Party has always been what it is now. The Democratic Party was far more progressive than what it is now. And so we have just adjusted, like I said at the top of this question and answer, we've adjusted to Ronald Reagan's paradigm. Hang on. How do I make these comments stay longer? Do anybody know? Because the comments are coming and going a little too quick. We've adjusted to the Ronald Reagan paradigm, and because of that, we have lost what it means to really be progressive Democrats. You know, so what you see, the mess you see now, isn't what it always was. I wonder what position she'll get in Hillcat's administration. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she's going to get a high-ranking position. I really hope Tim Canova can beat her. So you guys reach out to Tim and tell him he needs to come on the show. We need to talk to him, because if we don't win anything else. If we don't win anything else, we need to help. We need to help him win that race down there. All right, let's take a few more questions. My wife is just getting here with lunch. Click comment and then swipe left to see a comment. Click comment and then swipe left. Oh, what you say? There they go. Is the Green Party willing to address black issues? So Jill Stein did say something about reparations, but to me it was kind of opportunistic. You know, it came when Bernie Sanders fumbled on reparations. Jill Stein is, I like her. I'll talk to her on the show and I'll ask her these questions because I want to know the answers to these questions. But in a lot of ways, Jill Stein is capitalizing on the Bernie or bust movement, and to the detriment of. Well, I mean, people do what you want to do, right? I can't tell you if it's going to be detrimental or not. You know, you got to make that call. But I just think. I think the right play is to take advantage of the local politics. Because like I said, I keep bringing this up because this really stuck out to me, right? There's an opportunity, folks. There's an opportunity to change this, but we keep doing it from the top up. There's such an opportunity to change it from the bottom up. There's top down, rather. There's an opportunity to change it from the bottom up. All right, folks. The wife is here. Let me take one more question and then... Joe, I don't know how to pronounce that, said, for real though, do you think Jill Stein has any black friends? I don't know. I have to ask her when she comes on the show. That's a great question. All right, folks, this has been fun. We'll do it again. Let me know if you enjoyed it, and we just kind of do a real informal hangout. AMA, Ask Me Anything, and see you next time. Peace. How do I stop this? There we go.